December 25th, 2025. Christmas Spooky Scrapbook.
Ghost stories at Christmas have become synonymous with many cultures who would gather around a roaring fireplace and regale each other with stories of the unknown and the supernatural. This became a yearly tradition in King's College, Cambridge, as a professor there would gather the students in his study and tell them ghost stories that he would write for them. This professor was M.R. James, and his ghost stories became so famous that starting in the 1970s, the BBC decided to turn them into mini-films and show them on Christmas Eve night.
The Room in the Tower is one of my favourite ghost stories. I read them when I was very young, and it's always stayed. E.F. Benson, in his day, he was very famous for his ghost stories, whereas he called them spook stories. Some of them are very funny, but some of them are absolutely blood-curdling and horrible, and this is one of them. If E.F. Benson could see my version, he'd probably say, "I'm alive! It's a miracle!" Ugh, that's strange. The ultimate Christmas ghost story is The Room in the Tower, BBC 2, Christmas Eve, 10 o'clock. It's probably, almost certainly, yes it is, A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens.
Christmas and ghost stories are deeply connected, and most people have no idea why. Since ancient history, people spent long cold winters gathered around fires and telling stories, myths, legends, and even ghostly tales. As society moved into industrialized cities, people missed those fireside traditions. And in Victorian England, thanks to steam-powered printing presses, ghost stories exploded in popularity, especially at Christmas. That obsession peaked when Charles Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol. For the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future haunt Ebenezer Scrooge into becoming a better man. So ghost stories during Christmas, it's not strange at all. It's been a winter tradition for thousands of years.
Do you know Christmas is the best time of year to tell a good ghost story? Before the onslaught of Hallmark movies littered our screens during the holiday season, a different tradition had a hold on Christmas time. Telling ghost stories used to be an integral part of Christmas celebrations for some people, and this tradition goes back centuries. It was an oral tradition, haunting stories told around the fire at winter solstice. Let's make some tea, and I'll tell you a spooky Christmas story. A young woman named Anne Cope was set to marry on Christmas Day. The wedding was extravagant, and everything went off without a hitch. There was a large feast and lots of wine and merriment. As the night was drawing to an end, Anne, wanting to continue the fun, decided to gather with some of the other young people in attendance to play a game of hide and seek. She was to be given a 5-minute head start, and the rest of the group would find her. Once the 5 minutes were up, they began their search. At first, joyful, the party searched high and low through the sprawling mansion. 10 minutes turned to 20, turned to 60. They began to realize that something was amiss. After another hour of searching, the small group originally tasked with searching for young Anne alerted the rest of the guests they are celebrating the wedding, and everybody was searching. Hours of searching turned into days, and those days turned into weeks, then months, then years. Decades passed, and Anne's husband never gave up searching. Though there were many whispers of Anne running away that night, her husband, devoted, stayed in that home searching for her, knowing in his heart that she would never have left him. 50 years had passed. He was an old man now, but he was still desperate to find out what happened to his love. He had searched every corner of that house, and this day he made his way back up to the attic for what seemed like the millionth time, just to check every corner once again. But this time was different. As he made his way up the stairs, he noticed a chest in the depths of the attic that he had never seen before. He walked over, and with all of his strength, as the lid was extremely heavy, he lifted the top of the chest to peek inside. There he found his beautiful bride, still wearing her wedding attire, a crown of Christmas mistletoe preserved atop her head. He cried out in a mix of anguish and relief as he had finally found his beloved. There are many places in England that claim to house the chest of the mistletoe bride, but one place I saw pop up many times was the Bramshill House in northeast Hampshire. There are many ghosts haunting the Hall of Bramshill, but there is one that could give credence to their claims on the mistletoe bride, and that is the lady in white seen roaming the halls at night. Many have seen her walking along the corridors at night, as if attempting to lead them to her hiding place. So, what do you think? Is the mistletoe bride real? Should we bring back the tradition of telling ghost stories at our family Christmas? We think so. So we hope you leave your spooky tales in the comments, and we hope that this holiday season, whatever you're celebrating, is wonderful for you and yours. Stay spooky, and Merry Christmas.
The tradition of telling ghost stories at Christmas goes back centuries. And this evening I'm going to tell you the strange tale of a ghost that was seen by an entire church choir at Christmas time in the year 1876. Now sadly, the account doesn't give the exact location of the ghost, simply saying that it was in a church in a village not far from the village of Modbury in Devon. The most obvious candidate would be the 14th century church of St. Peter and St. Paul in the village of Ermington, right next to Modbury. It's a rather interesting church, famous in the area for its crooked spire. Legend says that there was once a bride who arrived on her wedding day and was so beautiful that the church bowed to greet her. It's also famous for its rather beautiful wood carvings done by Mary, Ethel and Violet, 3 of the 7 daughters of the Reverend Edmund Pinwill, who was vicar here in the 1880s. To start our story, we need to travel back to a dark, cold December night in the year 1876, when the church choir was practicing for the Christmas service. The choristers were all singing lustily when one noticed a door at the back of the church, slowly beginning to open. He whispered to his neighbours in the choir stalls, and soon the entire choir fell silent, watching agape, as the door fully opened to reveal in the gloom a figure draped in white. It solemnly walked down the aisle towards them and mounted the pulpit, before returning down the aisle and exiting the church into the night. For a moment the entire choir was still and silent, unable to believe what they had just seen. And then there were shrieks, someone fainted, others ran out of the church and into the night. One chorister suffered such a shock that he took to his bed for several days afterwards. Upon discussion later, all who were present could agree on one thing. They recognized the white-robed apparition as a recently deceased parishioner whom they had known well, clearly visiting them for Christmas.
Why did the Victorians tell ghost stories on Christmas Eve? If you've been watching my videos for a while, then you know that the Victorians were obsessed with ghosts. With the advent of the spiritualist movement, along with the new ability to print stories far more cheaply thanks to industrial developments, ghost stories could now be distributed to a much wider audience. During the Christmas season, families would gather around fires to read these spooky stories. And the practice peaked in the UK in the late 1800s and early 1900s. A famous example of this is Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, which tells the story of the stingy Ebenezer Scrooge being visited by 3 ghosts on Christmas Eve. Another example, and in my opinion a scarier option, is The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, which begins with characters telling ghost stories around a fire at Christmas Eve. Do you think this is a tradition we should bring back? Let me know in the comments.
In the 18th century, there was a notorious gang of highwaymen called the Hawkhurst Gang. They're named for the village of Hawkhurst in Kent, and their main headquarters was in the Oak and Ivy Inn in Hawkhurst, with a secondary headquarters in the Mermaid Inn in the town of Rye in East Sussex. And they were infamous for their reign of terror across the south coast. One story tells that one of the highwaymen stopped a coach with the intent to rob it. Inside the coach was a young woman and her father, and they were ordered out of the coach and onto the deserted road. Just as the young woman stepped out, the horses were startled and bolted down the road, taking the coach and her father with them. The young woman stood alone with the highwayman, and she recognised him as the fiend who had killed her brother years before. She was enraged when she saw him and realised who he was, and she had a knife concealed on her. which she took out and plunged into the highwayman's side. He fled the scene, clutching his side. His body was found some time later when the horses returned with the coach. And the next day, the young woman was found wandering the woods and had completely lost her mind. And every year, this scene is replayed for all who pass by.
Life's better with Christmas carols and holiday TV specials.